That night Jesus was afraid, and the prayer he refused to pray saved you. That's right. The Son of God, the creator of the universe, faced a moment of such profound terror that his sweat turned to drops of blood. And there, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he could have asked the Father for something that would have changed everything, but he chose not to pray that prayer. And that refusal is the reason you still have hope today. The one prayer Jesus refused to pray, and why that's shocking, is the subject of this video. And when you understand what happened on that night of anguish, the way you pray, suffer, and trust in God will never be the same again. Perhaps you have already pleaded with God to remove pain, cancel suffering, or change a difficult path. There is nothing wrong with that. But what if I told you that there is a prayer even more powerful than asking for relief, a prayer that Jesus prayed in place of the one he refused to utter? And it is precisely this prayer that transforms destinies and reveals the true divine purpose in the life of those who trust. Throughout this video, you will discover the mystery of the prayer that Jesus didn't pray, the invisible conflict between his human will and God's will, and the most profound lesson about faith in moments of pain that anyone could learn. Stay until the end, because in the last few minutes, I will reveal something that can completely change the way you see your own prayers and your suffering. So prepare your heart. Take a deep breath. Because what you are about to discover will shake everything you thought you knew about prayer and total surrender to God. There is a hidden secret in the scriptures that most people have never realized. Jesus, during his ministry, taught about prayer. He healed the sick with a word. He raised the dead. He calmed storms. He cast out demons, all with powerful prayer and absolute authority. But there was one prayer he had every right to make, and he simply didn't. And understanding that choice can change how you view every difficult moment in your life. Why did the Son of God, who could summon legions of angels, choose to remain silent in the face of such a human plea? It wasn't a lack of faith. It wasn't weakness. It was something much deeper, something that reveals the true nature of sincere prayer and submission to God. Think about it. How many times have you prayed for God to change your circumstances? How many times have you pleaded for a trial to be removed before it even begins? Jesus felt this way too. He faced this dilemma at the darkest moment of his earthly life. And the decision he made that night in the Garden of Gethsemane wasn't just about him. It was about you, about me, about all of humanity. The prayer that Jesus didn't pray carries a mystery of prayer so powerful that when you finally understand it, you'll realize that your own struggles have a much greater purpose than you imagine. And it all begins in a silent garden, under the weight of a night that would change the course of history forever. The air was heavy that night, and something was about to happen that not even the heavens could ignore. Jesus knew what was coming. After the Last Supper, he and his disciples walked through the dark streets of Jerusalem toward the Mount of Olives. The silence between them was thick. Peter, James, and John followed closely, but they could not understand the profound sadness that filled the Master's face. They had seen him tired before, yes, but never like this. Never with that invisible weight that seemed to crush him with every step. When they arrived at the Garden of Gethsemane, a place of ancient olive trees and stony ground where Jesus used to pray, something was different. He stopped. He looked at the 3 disciples closest to him and said something that sent shivers down their spines. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, deadly sorrow." These words weren't just poetic, they were literal. Jesus was experiencing such intense anguish that his physical body began to react. Luke the physician recorded a shocking detail. Jesus' sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground, a rare medical phenomenon called hematidrosis, caused by extreme stress. Imagine the scene, the creator of the universe kneeling on the earth, trembling, facing prayer in the deepest anguish anyone could experience. It wasn't just the physical pain of the cross that tormented him. It was something much heavier. It was the weight of the sin of all humanity about to fall upon him. It was the imminent separation from the Father. It was the battle between his human nature, which wanted to live, and his divine mission, which demanded total sacrifice. The disciples slept. They couldn't endure the vigil Jesus asked for. But Jesus was fully awake, completely conscious, completely alone. And it was there, on that ground damp with sweat and blood, that he faced the most powerful temptation of his life, the temptation to ask the Father to change everything. Because he had that power, he could ask, and the Father would hear him. The Bible does not hide Jesus' vulnerability at that moment. Hebrews 5:7 says that he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears. Fervent cries, tears. This is not the image of someone calm and resigned. It is the image of someone struggling with everything he had. Jesus was not pretending to be human. He was being fully human. And in that humanity, he felt everything you feel when the pain is unbearable, the fear, the anguish, the desperate urge to escape. This is one of the most comforting and challenging truths of the Christian faith. Jesus understands. He doesn't just observe your suffering from afar. He has experienced it. He knows what it is to sweat blood from anguish. He knows what it is to cry out to God when the answer seems to be silence. He knows what it is to face a trial so great that even breathing hurts. And it was precisely there, at that breaking point, that prayer and suffering met in a way no one had ever seen before. Most people pray to escape suffering. Jesus prayed through suffering. He transformed agony into worship. He transformed fear into submission. He transformed human doubt into divine trust. But here's the crucial detail. Before the prayer he prayed, the one that changed everything, there was the prayer he didn't pray. And that unspoken prayer is just as powerful as the one that was uttered, because it reveals what Jesus chose to refuse, even though he had every right to ask. He looked up at the sky. Tears streamed down his face. His body trembled, and the temptation was there, real and burning. Father, cancel this. Stop everything now. But those words never came from his lips. Jesus had complete authority. He himself declared this when he was arrested. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he would put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? A Roman legion had 6,000 soldiers. 12 legions, 72,000 angels, ready to intervene, ready to stop the cross, ready to deliver Jesus from every lash, every thorn, every nail. But he didn't ask. Think about it. The Son of God in agony, with the power to stop everything with a single word, chose not to utter that word. That is the prayer Jesus did not pray. The prayer of deliverance, the prayer of escape. The prayer that said, Father, I deserve to be spared this. And he did deserve it. He was the only human being who truly deserved to be spared any suffering, but he chose not to pray that prayer. Why does this matter to you? Because it reveals something about the nature of faith in times of pain. There are times when God doesn't remove the trial, not because he can't, not because he doesn't care, but because something greater is happening, something you'll only understand when you look back and see how God was working through that pain, not around it. Before we continue, if this content is touching your heart, please leave a like below and subscribe to the channel. This helps me understand that you want more messages like this, that delve deep into the Word and real life. And activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's get to what really matters. Jesus could have prayed, Father, send the angels. But he didn't pray. He could have asked, Father, let someone else pay the price. But he didn't ask. He could have pleaded, Father, wait a little longer. But he didn't plead, because he knew that this prayer, even though human and understandable, went against the divine purpose that brought him to earth. It was in this brutal conflict between human will and divine mission that the most important decision in history was made. The biggest conflict that night was not between Jesus and the Roman soldiers. It wasn't between Jesus and the religious leaders. It wasn't even between Jesus and Satan. The greatest conflict was within Jesus himself, between the human desire to live and the divine obedience to die. between what his flesh wanted and what his spirit knew needed to be done. That is the essence of a true spiritual decision, when what you want to fight against, what God is asking. Jesus was not half human and half God. He was fully human and fully God, and that means he experienced the conflict in its entirety. His humanity cried out, "Run away!" His divinity whispered, "Stay." His flesh pleaded, "It can't be done." His spirit replied, "But it must be done." How many times have you felt this? The internal struggle between what is comfortable and what is right, between what eases your pain and what fulfills God's purpose, between the easy path and the necessary path. Jesus experienced this at the most extreme level possible, and he chose the most difficult path. This is fighting against your own will. It's not easy, it's not romantic, it's not something you do smiling, it's something you do crying, trembling, sweating blood, but trusting that God knows what he's doing, even when everything inside you is screaming the opposite. And here's what many people don't understand. Jesus wasn't resigned, he was determined. There's a huge difference. Resignation is giving up. Decision is choosing. Jesus chose. And that choice wasn't passive. It was the most active and intense battle he ever faced, because what came next wasn't just about him, it was about you, about me, about the possibility of reconciliation between God and humanity. After all the anguish, Jesus lifted his face to heaven and offered the most powerful prayer in history. "Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me." It was humanity speaking, the honest acknowledgement of the pain that was to come. Jesus didn't pretend everything was all right. He didn't mask the agony. He was real, vulnerable, transparent. And this teaches us something fundamental. You can be honest with God about your pain. He is not offended by your sincerity. But then comes the second part, the part that changes everything. "Yet not as I will, but as you will." 7 words that altered the destiny of humanity. 7 words that transform anguish into worship. 7 words that define what total surrender to God is. This is the ultimate sincere prayer. It's not denying what you feel. It's submitting what you feel to God's sovereign will. It's saying, "I don't understand, but I trust." It's crying out, "It hurts too much, but I know that you are good." It's admitting, "I wanted another way, but I choose yours." Jesus did not pray in flight. He prayed in submission to God. And in that moment, he showed us the perfect model of how Jesus prayed, with brutal honesty and unwavering trust. He did not hide the pain, but he also did not let the pain dictate his decision. This prayer confronts us because it exposes where our true trust lies. When God doesn't change the circumstances, do you still trust him? When the answer is no or wait, do you still worship him? When the cup isn't removed, do you still drink from it believing that God knows what he's doing? Jesus did this, and in doing so, he paved the way for you and me to have direct access to the Father, not through animal sacrifices, not through complex rituals, but through the unique and sufficient sacrifice of Christ on the cross. And this was only possible because he refused to pray the prayer of escape. Here is the truth that changes everything. Jesus was not a victim, he was a volunteer. He himself said in John 10:18, "No one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord." Read that again. No one forced Jesus to go to the cross. Not Pilate, not the Pharisees, not the Roman soldiers. He went because he chose to go. And that choice began in Gethsemane, when he refused to pray the prayer of escape. Why did Jesus suffer? Not by accident, not out of weakness, but because there was an eternal plan being fulfilled. From before the foundation of the world, God knew that humanity would fall. And from before the foundation of the world, the Lamb was already prepared to be sacrificed. Revelation 13:8 calls Jesus the Lamb slain from the creation of the world. Isaiah prophesied 700 years earlier, "He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities." Each wound was not random. Every drop of blood had a purpose. Jesus' sacrifice was not a plan B because plan A failed. It was the plan, the only plan, the perfect plan. And here's what leaves you speechless. If Jesus had prayed to escape and the Father had granted his request, all of humanity would be condemned forever, without forgiveness, without grace, without salvation. You and I would be eternally separated from God, without any hope of reconciliation. But he didn't pray for deliverance. He prayed for strength. He didn't ask to escape. He asked to fulfill his duty. And Luke 22:43 records something extraordinary. Then an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. God didn't remove the cup, but he gave him the strength to drink it to the end. Jesus chose suffering because he loved you more than he loved his own life. This is not abstract theology. It is tangible love. It is real sacrifice. It is divine purpose in action. And now you need to decide, what are you going to do with this love? Have you ever prayed for something with such certainty that it was God's will and received a no in response? Have you ever pleaded for a cure that never came? For a door that never opened, for a relationship that never healed, for a job that never materialized? And you've been left there, confused, wondering if God truly listens, if he truly cares, if you did something wrong. Jesus teaches us that there are times when our will simply doesn't align with God's. And in those moments, true faith isn't about insisting on what we want. It's about trusting in what he wants. Even when it hurts, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it seems unfair. This is not conformity. It is not passivity. It is not giving up on prayer. It is praying with spiritual maturity. It is understanding that God sees the whole picture while we only see a piece of it. It is recognizing that he is God and we are not. It is accepting that his ways are higher than ours and his plans are better, even when they don't seem so. Prayer in times of trial isn't about convincing God to do what we want. It's about aligning our hearts with what he already knows is best. Jesus modeled this perfectly. He expressed his human desire, but he submitted that desire to the divine will. And that submission didn't make him weak. It made him obedient, and in obedience, he found the strength to move forward. Is there something you're holding on to so tightly that you can't surrender it to God? A dream, a relationship, a situation, an outcome. Perhaps today's invitation is for you to pray Jesus' prayer, not as I will, but as you will. Because when you let go, God acts, and he always acts better than you could ever plan. Faith in the face of fear is not the absence of fear. It is trust despite fear. And Jesus showed us what that is like. If Jesus taught us anything about prayer, it was this: pray with brutal honesty and total submission. Many people think that prayer is just listing requests. God, I want this, that, and the other thing. But Jesus' teachings on prayer go far beyond that. He showed us that prayer is relationship, it's conversation, it's intimacy, it's being real with God, even when reality is ugly. In Gethsemane, Jesus didn't put on a show. He didn't strike a pose as a spiritual superhero. He wept, he sweated blood, he admitted he was afraid. And that's liberating, because it means you don't have to pretend to be okay when you're not. God prefers your messy honesty to your neat hypocrisy, but honesty alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by submission. You can tell God everything you are feeling, but in the end, the question is, will you trust him regardless of the answer? Will you move forward even if he says no? Will you worship him even when you don't understand? How did Jesus pray? With complete transparency and total trust. He took his pain to the Father, but he left the decision to the Father. And that is the powerful prayer that transforms lives. It is not the prayer that manipulates God. It is the prayer that surrenders to God. Do you know what's most impressive? Jesus prayed the same prayer 3 times that night. 3 times he returned to the same place, with the same words, with the same inner struggle. And this teaches us persistence. Prayer isn't about giving up after the first attempt. It's about continuing to seek God's face until you find peace, even if the answer isn't what you wanted. And when Jesus found that peace, he stood up, he woke the disciples, and he walked straight to his accusers, because now he was ready. Not because the pain had gone away, but because he had found purpose in the pain, and you can too. The prayer that Jesus did not pray could have prevented the crucifixion, but it would also have prevented your salvation. It would have prevented the forgiveness of your sins. It would have prevented reconciliation between you and God. It would have prevented the possibility of eternal life. It would have prevented everything that makes the gospel truly good news. And the prayer that Jesus prayed, not as I will, but as you will, changed the course of human history. It opened the way to the cross, and the cross opened the way to the empty tomb, and the empty tomb opened the way to the resurrection. And the resurrection opened the way for you to have a second chance, a new life, a new beginning. This is like trusting in God's will. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's transformative. Because when you stop fighting against God and start fighting with God, everything changes. Your prayers change, your perspective changes, your peace changes, your life changes. So I ask you, what is the prayer you need to stop praying? That selfish, controlling, escapist prayer, the one that tries to force God to follow your script instead of trusting His. Maybe it's time to stop fighting and start surrendering. And what is the prayer you need to start praying? That prayer of submission, of trust, of surrender, the one that says, God, I don't know how this will end, but I know that you are good, and I choose to trust in you, no matter what happens. Not as I will, but as you will. This is the prayer that changes destinies, the prayer that Jesus prayed, the prayer that He taught us, the prayer that transforms suffering into purpose, pain into growth, and anguish into worship. Jesus refused to pray the prayer of escape because He knew you needed a Savior more than He needed comfort. He chose you. And now the question is, will you choose to trust Him? If you've made it this far, it's because this message has touched something deep within you. The story of the one prayer Jesus refused to pray isn't just about a historical moment in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's about every moment when you need to choose between your will and God's will, between the easy way and the right way, between running from pain and finding purpose through it. Jesus showed us that sincere prayer isn't about getting what we want from God. It's about aligning ourselves with what God wants from us. And when we do that, something supernatural happens. A peace that surpasses all understanding begins to fill the empty spaces. Strength that doesn't come from within empowers us to move forward. And divine purpose reveals itself in ways we could never imagine. Perhaps you are going through a situation right now where God seems to be silent, where you have prayed, cried, pleaded, and the answer has not yet come. I want you to know God is not distant. He is working. And sometimes He is doing something so great through your suffering that it will only make sense when you look back and see the complete picture. So I invite you today, pray the prayer of Jesus. Father, not as I will, but as you will. And observe how God transforms your life from this total surrender. If this message impacted you, leave a comment below telling us which part resonated with you the most. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. Because there's much more powerful biblical truth coming soon. And remember, Jesus didn't run from the cross so that you wouldn't have to run from yours. He faced everything to give you hope, purpose, and salvation. And that changes everything. May God bless you, and may you find peace in surrender, strength in trust and purpose in every moment of pain He allows on your journey, because He is with you. He always has been, and He always will be. Until the next video, stay safe.